Welcome to the Trip Tales podcast with me, Kelsey Graves. Let's jump into a new episode exploring a vacation destination that you'll want all the details about. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trip Tales. Today we are in for a treat because we are going to be hearing about how Genni took her mom on a retirement trip all over Spain, mostly on points. We are going to be visiting Madrid, Seville, and Barcelona in this episode. So welcome, Genni. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kelsey. I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be so fun.
I start every episode with a rapid fire get to know you. So tell everyone where you live, what you do, and about your family.
Yeah, so my husband and I are native Floridians. We live in South Florida, not Miami. Everyone thinks Miami, but we're about 2.5 hours northwest, kind of, from Miami. I went to Florida State, go Noles, and I majored in hospitality administration and marketing. So I started off my career in the hospitality industry, working in hotels. Love to travel, so that's why I got into that. And I really love the team member discounts. Like we got some really great deals. Like I think the lowest rate I ever got for a hotel was like $35 a night. So it
That's
was like really
awesome.
cow.
I
The thing
should work in the hospitality industry.
but wait, because like it was cool in that sense, and I did make a lot of great connections, but there was really no work-life balance at all. It was kind of rough, especially for somebody who loves to travel, and you get these great team member discounts, and then you don't really get to go anywhere because you're always working.
Yeah, lots of weekends and stuff.
Yeah, definitely, and like nights, and it's yeah. So I decided to make a career change, and so I moved into like the hospitality marketing software and I was working in that, but losing the team member discounts. And I was like, well, now I can travel. I have that work-life balance, but I don't really want to pay full price for traveling, right? So I started researching and I got into points and miles. Like fast forward, I decided to take a career break and kind of like start my travel blog all about points and miles, which has given me the opportunity to experience things that I never would be able to afford, including flying to Spain in business class, which we're going to talk about today, which was so fun. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
That's a really interesting path that it took you on because you were in hospitality. So you got all these discounts. So you were like, I
Mhm.
can't pay the full price again. So now what am I going to do?
Right.
And that's what helped you figure out points and miles. I love
Yeah,
that. Where
exactly.
specifically in Florida are you guys?
We're like in like the West Palm area.
Okay.
So when I say South Florida, everyone thinks Miami, and I'm
Well,
like,
we go
no.
to South Florida a lot. My parents have a place on Marco Island, which is
Mm.
across the
Yes,
state.
that's on the West Coast. We're more on the East Coast.
Okay, got it. So what's your home airport when you're typically planning travel?
When we're typically planning travel, I would love to fly at a Palm Beach International, but it's kind of like a smaller regional airport, so there aren't many direct flights to a lot of the places we want to go. So I mostly fly out of Fort Lauderdale, or I do fly out of Miami for like those international flights because you can get really great points redemptions out of Miami.
Yeah,
So
it
we
is
fly
nice
out of
that
there a
Florida
lot.
has so many airports kind of right within a circle of each other that you can choose from.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like in the points and miles world, we talk about taking positioning flights because, you know, if you have a home airport that doesn't have a lot of great direct flights, like Palm Beach International, then flying out of another bigger hub will give you a lot more options. And I'm very fortunate that I have Miami, but even if Miami doesn't work, Fort Lauderdale's still good, Orlando, Jacksonville, Tampa.
Yeah,
So
you have
yeah,
so
we
many.
do have
That's
some good
awesome.
options. Yeah, we have a lot. So I am very fortunate in that way.
So in May 2024, you treated your mom to a 12-night trip to Spain to celebrate her retirement. That is seriously such an amazing gift. What did your mom do for work?
So she worked for a workers' compensation analytical company called NCCI. She worked there for over 25 years.
Amazing.
And, she's really, her and my dad are really the reason why I love to travel. We took family vacations every year. We went to Hawaii, we went to Italy, we went all around the country. And she's one of those people that like will go to the library and get travel books or like buy travel books. She also now she watches YouTube videos of people just like walking through the cities and stuff. And I'm like, what are you watching?
You know,
So
you can
she's
do that on a Peloton treadmill. I have a Peloton treadmill and you can pick different Ireland, like Greece, and you can take your like 30-minute walk on the treadmill and it's like a point of view like you're going through Mykonos. And it is the best thing for a travel lover.
That is so cool. But yeah, so she like already knows. It's so funny because she does all this stuff. She already kind of knows where everything is when we get there. But then me, the person who does no research, ends up being the one that navigates us everywhere.
Yeah.
But we never get lost. So I'm pretty proud of myself. But anyway, so she's like the reason why I love to travel. So I just thought like to celebrate this huge milestone, like we've got to take a trip somewhere, you know?
Yes. And I think I might already know the answer to this question because it might have been all of her books and her YouTube work. But what
Mhm.
made you guys choose Spain for this special trip?
Well, actually, Spain was definitely on our list, but that's not why I picked it. So, as a points and miles girly, I like to follow the deal rather than the destination. And I had already known that there are some really great point redemptions out of Miami to Madrid on Iberia in business class. So I already knew that I wanted to try that out. And I found really great redemption from Miami to Madrid round trip, which is usually not what points and miles people do. Usually they'll just do a one way into one city and then they'll come back from another city. But I found this really great redemption. So I was like, you know what? Let's just fly round trip and then we'll start in Madrid and end in Madrid. And then we'll kind of like go around. So because of that finding, I was like, Mom, let's just go to Spain. You know, like we've always wanted to go. Our family's Puerto Rican. We have deep roots in Spain. So it was just kind of perfect.
That is perfect. This isn't like necessarily a Points and Miles podcast. A lot of you guys know that there's plenty of amazing Points and Miles podcasts out there, but I do dip my toe in it quite a bit, especially recently because I've been learning more and more. So tell people just briefly what your kind of approach is to Points and Miles and how you like to think about it and what you guys talk about over in your Facebook group, because I might be joining that soon so that I can learn even more tips and tricks from you.
Yeah, I have a Facebook group. It's called Lazy Budget Travel Tips. I have an Instagram. It's at Traveling Franklins, and I talk about these types of tips. But I really like to take a more laid back approach to points and miles. I know that from the outside, if you're a beginner, it can seem really complex. There's just like a lot to learn, and it can get very overwhelming. But for me and the way that I like to do it, I like to just take a laid back approach. You don't need to get a PhD in points and miles. You just do what feels right for you, what you're comfortable with. If you want to keep going and do more complex strategies, then you can do that. But the thing about points and miles that I love is that you actually don't have to get into those really complex strategies in the beginning to get amazing redemptions. I mean, the first year that my husband and I were even like dipping our toes into points and miles, we got 3 nights free in Marriott in London. And I mean, that was amazing for us. So even if you just get one credit card, you just maximize that to the fullest, earn a welcome bonus, you can still get like a full or even like half a year trip for like free or like almost free. So there's really not much that you have to do to get started. You just have to start. And that's what I like to focus on and teach the people in my Facebook group.
Hey, Trip Tales listeners, I'll keep this short. If you're loving the podcast, leaving a review or buying me a coffee is the quickest way to show your support, and it will ensure that these amazing trip stories keep coming. Leave a review wherever you are listening to this podcast, or buy me a coffee at the link in the show notes, and I'll literally do a happy dance when it comes through. Okay, back to the show. Yeah, I feel like I just got started at the beginning of last year. And our like just super high level basic strategy was a couple Southwest credit cards because we live in Nashville and BNA has tons of Southwest flights. It's almost like hard not to take Southwest.
Mm.
So, getting the right cards for some introductory offers to get us towards a companion pass, which last year we had two, and we're a family of five, which was amazing.
That is
We
amazing.
lost one, but we have earned another one. So we currently have one. So we definitely use Southwest cards for flights points and companion passes and all that. And then because everyone on all these podcasts and groups that I follow all said, if you're going to start somewhere, it's got to be the Chase Sapphire preferred card. And so I started with that. I got a great introductory offer. I just put all my spending on it. And as a mom of three, the Chase Sapphire is really good for grocery, online grocery, grocery delivery, dining out. It's just got a lot of great like points back levels. So I got an introductory offer last year for that, was able to go to the Omni Grove Park Inn, super fancy schmancy hotel in Asheville, North Carolina with my husband for his 40th birthday. That was amazing.
Amazing.
It wasn't like the best redemption rate because I didn't even know at the time that you shouldn't book through the Chase portal. But then Mary Ellen and Joe, our podcasters that we both love on the
Mhm.
Wonderland to Points podcast, had said, no, no, no. You actually, Omni doesn't really have a good transfer anyway. So that was a good way to use points for that. So got that and a bunch of flights for other things. And then fast forward to this year, no extra special introductory offers. It's not like I set it and forget it, but I was just continuing to use my card through my unfortunately very expensive life as a family of five, feeding them. And a year later, I had 100,000 points just bulked back up, just kind of out of nowhere, it felt like. And we just worked on planning our 2025 travel. And with the Chase Sapphire travel portal, when you transfer out to Hyatt specifically, it is the redemption is so crazy, it almost doesn't make sense. I just booked three different hotels in different locations in Arizona for a Grand Canyon trip, all through points. One was IHG, but there was also this crazy, like you got 70% more points when you transferred out to IHG right now. And then I booked a couples trip for me and my husband to Cabo to the Cape, a Thompson hotel. And I was able to do it all on all these points. And I was like, how are these hotels like so much less points than like Marriott's and other ones? It's just the wildest thing. And it does feel overwhelming, but once you do it once or twice and you like transfer the points out and they get into your Hyatt account and you book the thing and it was like $0 or sometimes nominal amounts of money, you're like, did I just rob somebody? Was that real
Mhm.
life? It's the
Yeah.
best feeling.
You feel like you just like discovered something that, like it's crazy. But it's so funny how you were saying, like, I didn't think that that was a good redemption. And honestly, there's no such thing as a bad redemption in this. Like, you still got a great experience. You still didn't have to pay full price for travel. So for me, that is always a win. I mean, our first redemption, we booked through the travel portal, and I don't regret it because that was what I needed to do to learn. And, now I'm doing those transfers to Hyatt. Like we actually, my husband and I, for one of our wedding anniversaries, we stayed at an all-inclusive ranch in Colorado. It was a luxury ranch. We stayed in a beautiful cabin, beautiful view. All of the food was included, all of the activities. It was $1,700 a night if you paid cash, and we spent 105,000 points for the whole thing for 3 nights,
Amazing. Was
which
it
is
technically a Hyatt
insane.
property?
It was through a program, Small Luxury Hotels with Hyatt, which now that program is partnering with Hilton. So the redemptions aren't as
Okay,
great,
got it.
but there's still other options. And that's the other thing too, is that these programs are changing all the time. So I always tell people, don't hoard your points. Earn and burn. I mean, I'm hoarding points right now because we're trying to do a trip to Japan in 2026. I've already booked most of my points trips for 2025. But if you're just holding them for like a rainy day, like don't, because they will devalue, things will change. So the best thing to do is to just use them. But yeah, I mean, there's no wrong way to do this. I mean, like you won't learn until you try, and if you will have no regrets because out of it, you got some free travel.
I love
Better,
the line earn
yeah,
and burn. I'm going to use
yeah,
that on
earn
my
and burn.
husband next time that I'm trying to book travel and to be like, hun, we got to earn and burn.
Yeah, we got the points. We got to use them, right? And my
Yeah.
husband was definitely in the beginning. He was very reluctant, especially had to do with getting credit cards.
So
Although
was
my
mine.
philosophy isn't always applying for credit cards. Like I do like to apply for them, but we're like some people are doing it like every 30, 90 days, and that's just not realistic for us, especially if you want to take a more laid back approach. I like what you were saying about maximizing the cards that you already have. And you have cards from my favorite bank. I just like love that bank. I have a ton of cards from them. They have so many options to earn, so many options to redeem, perfect for the lazy points a miler. So, yeah, I just love using points and miles, and I think that everyone can do it, and I would love to help them.
Amazing. So you visited three cities in Spain and spent 4 nights in each of the cities, Madrid, Seville, and Barcelona. So tell us how you got there and about booking your fancy flights.
Yes. So we flew business class on Iberia from Miami to Madrid, round trip. And I booked that with credit card points from the bank that we love that you were mentioning. I transferred those from the bank straight to the Iberia program, and I was able to book those flights. I think it was like 85,000 points per person, which for business class round trip is pretty amazing. It's a huge steal because originally, if you wanted to pay cash for those flights, it would be like $4,200. And we only paid 85,000 points per person and like $280 because when you transfer points, you usually have to pay taxes and fees. But I mean, for $280 instead of 4,200, I'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. So what
Yeah.
was business class like on Iberia? I've still never flown business class, especially overseas. So tell us all about it.
Yes. So I've flown business class before. I flew Air France previously from Miami to Paris. And the best thing about business class is obviously the lie flat seat. That's what everybody's talking about. And when you're flying, usually you're flying an overnight flight. So getting that lie flat seat is very important, having your own space. But to compare the two, I would say that Iberia, it was a little lower than Air France in terms of like quality of food, but the food was still amazing. So don't get me wrong, it was still like business class meal, very fancy. But in terms of like just like the food, it was a little different. But I was way more comfortable in my Iberia lie flat seat than I was in my Air France seat. Although I never sleep on those flights, I just can't. I can't.
So
There's
you
too
just lay
much.
flat, you try your hardest, and you kind of just like roll around or watch a movie or something?
Well, I try to sleep. I put my earplugs in, and there's too much happening. I'm like, there's so much other air noise, somebody's
Yeah,
snoring, or like, what do we do when we get there? Like, I have to go get the train tickets. I have to go do this and that. I'm just like thinking of all the logistics. I get so much anxiety. So
yeah,
if you are able to sleep, I
amazing.
love that for you, but
Yeah.
I'm not, that's not me. Like, we just flew, I was telling you, we just did the Christmas markets and we flew
Yes.
economy and oh my God, nightmare.
Yeah. You're like, where's my laid flat
Where's
seat?
my lie flat seat? Like it's so true that like once you fly business class for that type of flight, it's really hard to go back.
Yeah, I
I
know.
really what I missed the most was the space.
Yeah, I don't
Definitely.
know. I might need a real aggressive points and miles strategy to fly my family of five business class places. It just feels so hard to get every time for each person you're using so many points. So we might be flying economy when we start heading over to Europe and stuff, which will be just fine.
Yeah, I mean, whatever gets you there, right?
Yeah.
I still would do it. I would still fly economy. I'm more about the destination. So whatever can get me there.
Yeah, and we might have to have you back on to talk about Christmas markets because that is obviously super hot right now and on everybody's bucket list. So everyone stay tuned. We're going to try to get her back for that. Okay, but back to Spain. So you
Okay.
land in Madrid and do you go
Yes.
straight to your hotel? How did you get there? Like you said on your flight, you were already trying to figure out, the next steps once you landed. So tell us about getting from the airport to your next stop.
Yeah, so we decided to just take a cab from the airport to our hotel. We were staying in the Plaza Espana, which is like in the heart of Madrid. With my mom and just like our luggage and stuff, it's just a lot easier. But once we got there, we went straight to the metro and got metro passes. We decided to in Madrid, you're able to share. So we got like a 10 journeys that we were able to use for the both of us. And the one that we got was for like buses and the metro. So we used that to get around everywhere because we didn't have our luggage and stuff. But to get to the hotel, we just got in a cab. But it was really funny because like I DIY'd this trip, right? Like I planned all the logistics. I did everything myself, which is can be stressful, but I love it. I don't know. I think I'm like a masochist or something.
I love it too.
But so it was a lot of logistics. And for some reason, the first hotel, it was in an amazing location, but it was a little rough. It had 4-star reviews on Google. We were only staying there 2 nights, thankfully, because we stayed 2 nights in the front end of Madrid, and then on the back end, we stayed 2 nights. So it was smack in the middle of Plaza España, but it was like straight out of the 70s. They gave us an actual key for the room on the biggest keychain I've ever seen in my life. I barely fit my purse. And it was kind of like the room was really big, but it was like, I don't know, I felt like we were staying in like a private room in a hostel. But thankfully, we didn't stay there very long. And spoiler alert, the rest of the hotels were amazing. So if you're worried listening to this, I'm like, oh my gosh, don't worry. But thankfully, we dropped off our stuff and then went straight to our next thing.
Welcome to the Living Limitless podcast. Raw, honest, and unapologetically unfiltered. Whether we're fumbling through starting businesses, awkwardly figuring out content creation, or navigating wellness trends that sometimes feel like punishment, we lay it all out. Chaos and all. Throw in some travel adventures, life's curveballs, and a generous dose of sarcasm, and you've got a podcast where nothing is off limits. We're here to share the real journey. Messy, unpredictable, and occasionally hilarious. Because if we can figure this out, so can you. Probably.
So, I mean, I haven't been back to Europe in a minute. I went in college twice. And I remember hotels giving me keys. So maybe that's just a European thing as well. I'm sure some of the nicer, newer hotels have all the key cards, but maybe some of the older hotels just haven't updated their doors and their
Yeah,
locks.
I mean, that's definitely possible. I mean, everywhere I've stayed in Europe, most of them have either
You're like, yeah, they've updated their lock.
like a key card or like a little sensor thing. It's not usually for me an actual key unless it's like a boutique hotel or something. So I was
Yeah.
definitely surprised. But there's also this keychain attached to it was so huge. It was like I like they didn't want me to lose it
Like,
or
was it
something.
like a ring?
It was like it was like this long, and then the key was attached to it. It was, I don't know, like 5 inches long. I'm kidding. It's
Okay.
not, but it was
Hilarious.
long.
Okay, well, tell us the name of the hotel so people don't make the same mistake if they're looking up and they're like, oh, this looks great. 4 stars, Google, book it.
Yeah, okay. So for Spain especially, like because I usually use Google a lot and I go by the stars and it usually works. But in Spain, I would definitely not trust like if it says 4 stars, like it's a 4-star level hotel, read the reviews, kind of dive deep into the reviews and look at the recent ones. Some of
Yes.
them,
Google has
mhm,
started. This happened to me. Like I said, I was booking a lot of our 2025. I think it used to be sorted by recent, and now it is sorted by
most
most
helpful.
relevant or most helpful.
Yeah.
And it's all 5 star reviews. And when you switch it to most recent, all of a sudden it'll be like a 1 star review. And you're like, oh my gosh. So you guys have to switch your Google reviews to most recent.
Yes, please switch the filter to most recent and then you'll be able, because it's happened to me too, where some hotels are rated lower and then most of the lower ratings were from like 5 years ago.
Right.
And then I'll switch it to most recent and there's many more better reviews. And then I stayed there and it's great. So
Yeah.
just be a little bit more mindful, especially in Spain. And the funny thing too is that we probably spent like an average of like 150 euros a night on this trip, and this was like the one of the most expensive hotels. But it's probably because of the location.
Yeah.
And that's the thing for us too, is that we really value location. With like a lot of points and miles hotel, like the really big brands, like you mentioned IHG, which IHG, if people don't know, they're like the Holiday Inn, Intercontinental,
Hmm.
those types of brands, and like Marriott and Hilton. Like sometimes those can be hit or miss in Europe, actually, or if they're really nice, they're kind of outside of the city center. And we like to save time and money by staying in the city center, especially a city we've never been to before. So that's really important. Location is important. And we are hardly in the room anyways.
Right. Great point.
So, but I'm a hotel girly. I like my amenities and things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it was a little bit rough, but
Okay, what was it called? So we don't make the same mistake.
I don't want to tell you.
You don't? You have to. Why not?
I
We
don't want
can't
to
we can't have
say.
listeners booking it.
Okay, sorry. Okay, it's the Espa Hotel,
Okay.
Espana.
Okay.
But the staff is really great.
You're so kind. You're like, you
I
don't
don't want to
you're not gonna listen to this. We
say.
don't want
But
people
yeah,
making the same mistake, but you didn't love it. It just felt a little like bare bones and from the 70s.
yes,
But
exactly.
the
It was
location was
like if you don't
amazing and the
mind
staff
staying in
was nice.
hostels, I think it's perfect,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Okay. Despite the hotel, the first stop in Madrid, what was the overall vibe of Madrid?
I would say the vibe was very cosmopolitan, like, bustling. I want to say like it was kind of like New York, but not really because New York is like go, go, go. And Spain in general, they're just like very laid back. They're just like, we'll get there when we get there. We'll do that when we do that. But I mean, as far as like the vibe, it was very cosmopolitan, very bustling, and like, city vibes for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like another big difference between like somewhere like New York and Madrid is the architecture is just like so
Mhm.
stunningly amazing and old world feeling and not that like brand new kind of sleek skyscraper
Exactly. It's
feeling.
not modern at all, like not super modern, which I love that. I love the fact that like in Europe, everything is so old and historic. But then you still get those city vibes.
Yeah.
So
What did you guys get into these first 2 days in Madrid in terms of like sightseeing?
yeah, so I love a hop on, hop off tour. I don't know how everyone feels about that, but whenever we go to a new city, we love it because not only do you get a tour, but you also get transportation. And I'm all about saving money on stuff like that. So we did the metro and we did the hop on, hop off. The first 2 days, we went to the Prado Museum. And actually, I think it was the first day. So I can't believe I made it. I was so tired.
Yeah.
But I have to say that it was an art museum, and I'm generally not a museum person. I kind of don't have like much of appreciation for art as much as I think I should. But we booked a tour guide, so we did like a guided tour at the museum. And I feel like because we did that, I have so much more of an appreciation for the art there. It could also be that the Prado Museum just has like really amazing art pieces,
How do you spell it?
which
The museum you're
they
saying?
do. Prado, Prado.
Okay. Perfect.
Prado. Yes. Which I think means prairie.
Was it like a lot of the like old world, like impressionist and oil paintings and that kind of art?
Yes. Yes,
Yes.
Francisco Goya was a favorite of ours. And if you look him up, you'll probably see like the black paintings, which are really ominous and like they have like really like a cold. He was in like a really depressive state when he painted those, but they're just like really interesting. And because we had that guide, I really got to hear about the inspiration, the influences. It's just like a lot better than walking around, wandering myself, not knowing, because it's huge. There's so many pieces. You can't, it's like going to the Louvre. It's not really going to, the Louvre is huge.
Yeah.
But when you go to the Louvre, it takes like, if you wanted to see everything, it takes a week. You need somebody to go in there and be like, this is the piece you want to see. This
Yeah.
is the inspiration behind it, the influences, why it's been inspirational for generations,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And the pieces in the Prado Museum are really just amazing and cool because it's not only just like the oil paintings and stuff, it's like the sculptures and then like they had like some just really unique pieces that is like kind of hard to describe, but like
Yeah.
a lot of religious symbolism and just really cool stuff. So like even if you're not a museum person, get a guide, go to the Prado Museum. You have to.
Yeah. I
Have to.
actually love an art museum, and you just talking about it got me like excited to start going back again. I haven't been since before my husband and I had kids, and I remember just absolutely loving like the Modern Art Museum in London, the art museums in Chicago. Just I'm like one of those people who can just kind of wander and stare at something for so long to see like what it means to me, which sounds so funny even saying right now because like my life is just so busy driving children around. But that just got me excited to like start thinking about art museums again and maybe even start introducing my kids to them because we haven't really taken them to many art museums, so that might be on my radar again soon. Sounds
Yeah,
fun.
and I feel like I've been missing out my whole life not having a guide to take
Yeah.
me through these museums because I love history and stuff, so like a natural history museum and stuff. And my husband likes that too, but for some reason art, I've just never like I look at these art pieces and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." Like it just looks really cool, but knowing the story behind it is what really makes it amazing to me, and I just need somebody to tell me. I don't want to read about it.
Yeah, the guide is great because they can take you to the best spots that you can like hit within an hour. They can give you a little education and then you leave being like, "Oh my gosh, I learned so much. That was so interesting. I love it. That's awesome." Did you just book the guide through the museum website?
No, actually, we booked the guided tour, which included the admission to the museum through like TripAdvisor.
Oh,
And I got
interesting.
cash back on Rakuten
Oh,
for it
look at
too. So,
that. Amazing.
cha-ching.
Awesome. Okay, anything else that you guys hit up in Madrid these
Yeah.
first couple days?
Yeah, the first couple days, like I said, we did the hop on, hop off, and then we did the museum. I would say like a highlight of the hop on, hop off was like Puerta de Sol. So it's like sun's door or
Yes.
something. Yeah.
SOL, son. Yeah.
Yes. And there's a lot of shops around there. My mom actually ended up going, it's called Casa Diego. And it's a really old shop where they have handmade shawls, handmade umbrellas, handmade fans. And so she went in there, bought a few things. Very cool. So if you're really into that, I would highly recommend going there. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff. And don't forget to ask about the VAT refund because she spent like 300 euros there, and I completely forgot to ask if they participate in that program. So
What
we
is
don't have
that
to get,
program?
okay, I was gonna say we don't have to get into it now if you don't want, but I would love to explain
Yeah,
it.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah, so in Europe, when you're paying for stuff, they always add like a VAT tax. And that's for food, for hotels, for when you're shopping. But they do have a program where if you're a non-EU resident, you can get a refund of some of that back. And that's if you're like buying things that are like super expensive at a store. So a lot of people like to go to, it actually doesn't have to be super expensive, but people like to go to those designer brands like Louis Vuitton and stuff. And they can get that refund for those if the store is
Interesting.
participating in there. So
Well,
you
that's
just
good to
tell them
know.
you have to have your passport with you. They fill
Okay.
out some information. There's an app. And then when you go to the airport, you scan your receipt. And with those apps and like programs, then you can get like just a refund on your credit card. I think sometimes you can get cash too, but I think there's a fee for that. So we always just do the credit card. It's really easy. You just have to have your passport with you and remember to ask. And it never hurts to ask. If they say no, they say
Yeah,
no, but you never would know.
that's super good to know, especially because I do feel like people save those like big purchases, like a nice purse or art for these big trips. So worthwhile asking at least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote a whole like series of like that kind of stuff on my blog. So if you do want more details on like the specifics of what we did, then I have a blog post about that.
Perfect. We'll link that in the show notes so you guys can see that blog post as well. Any standout restaurants or food that you ate in Madrid?
Yes, so we had such great food in Spain in general, but specifically in Madrid, the La Latina neighborhood has some really amazing restaurants. And we went to the Los Angeles restaurant. That's basically what it's called. And it's so cute and authentic, like a very authentic Spanish restaurant. It's small and it fills up quick, but I don't even think they take reservations. But I would highly recommend if you want like an authentic Spanish meal. And then also, we can talk about it on the if we're going to keep going chronologically, but on the back end of the trip when we stayed in Madrid, we stayed at a hotel in Gran Via, and right next to us was this restaurant called Puerto Rico. And so my mom and I were Puerto Rican, like super excited, like, oh my gosh, we're gonna go to Puerto Rico. Yeah, no, it wasn't Puerto Rican food. I don't know why it was called Puerto Rico.
That's hilarious.
Because like a rich port is what Puerto Rico means in Spanish, so maybe that's why. I don't know. But it
Ugh.
definitely was not a Puerto Rican restaurant. It had like all of the Spanish food, and there's some really weird things that they eat in Spain. I just got to put that out there.
Yeah. Like what?
And I didn't even know what some of the stuff was, and I had to look it up. But we we had a really great meal there too. We just like ordered whatever, and it was actually really cheap.
What's some of the weird stuff they eat that like surprised you?
Well, they every menu had Russian salad. Have you ever heard of Russian salad?
No,
It's
I'm
so
sure when I
weird.
was in Spain in college, I saw it on a menu, but I have forgotten.
It's like some weird potato
Oh,
salad-ish
funny.
thing that's like really gross. And I mean they have well so I'm sure some places it's good, but
Yeah.
I thought it was gross. But yeah, they always have like these like interesting salads or like they'll do like a soup with just like a bunch of different like fish or like meats I've never really heard of and you get it in front of you and I'm used to this from like my grandmother. You get the soup and it looks weird, but then you taste it and it just tastes amazing. It's hard to
Well, good.
describe. You're just like, this is good. I'm just gonna keep eating this. I'm not really sure what's in it.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of stuff on there that I didn't even really know what it was, but everything we had was good though, except for the
Good.
Russian salad.
So next up was Seville. So how did you guys get from Madrid to Seville?
Yeah, so for Seville,
Which
it
in which in Spain they say Sevilla, but we're not going to say that. We'll just say Seville.
yeah. So in Spain, Madrid is more like in the middle, right? So we went from Madrid south to Andalusia. So
Okay.
there's different regions in Spain. And so for Seville, Seville is in Andalusia. And so we took a train. It was like less than 3 hours, and it was beautiful. We had a great time taking the train. And then once we got to Seville, it was very different from Madrid in the sense that it's like way more laid back, historic, like more romantic. Definitely not the cosmopolitan vibes that we got from Madrid. And being more in the south, in the southern region, it was, it was warmer, like super sunny. The landscapes are just like super beautiful. And we ended up staying in like a neighborhood that is really well known for things like flamenco, really close to the major sites. Like there was the bull ring and stuff like that.
Where did you stay in Seville?
Actually, going from Madrid and staying at the, not so great, and then getting to Seville, I was really nervous about the next hotel. I read the reviews and I was like, no, I think that this is going to be fine. We're fine. We're fine.
Yeah, you're like backtracking, like, wait, let me sort by most recent again.
Yeah, so we get there and we stayed at the Petit Palace. And it's the Petit Palace like Puerta de Triana, which is like near the neighborhood that we were staying in. And it was beautiful. The room was smaller, but it was a very like boutique-y hotel. And I mean, even the hotel we stayed in Madrid that's a Spanish chain. And then Petit Palace is also a Spanish chain. So if you're looking at hotels in Spain, you'll probably see Petit Palace come up a lot. But it still has like a boutique-y vibe, super cute.
I
Really
looked up
love the
photos on Google
decorations.
Photos and it was like adorable. Like it was like
It
a tiny white boutique hotel with like little black and white striped awnings and little like Juliet balconies. It just looked so adorable.
it's so cute. So I was like, I walked in and I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah,
So, the
it's
room
fine.
was small though. We had a nice sized bathroom, but I mean, if you're traveling to Europe, I would expect that the rooms are going to be small.
Yes,
But I mean, I've stayed in much smaller hotels. I mean, much smaller hotel rooms in Spain. So it was actually a pretty good size, I think. And the bathroom was pretty large and it was like very nice. So we were super happy with the hotel.
lovely.
Thank God.
And what did you do in Seville?
Yeah, so in Seville, like I said, we were staying like across the bridge from the Triana neighborhood, which is like a really historic site where they are really famous for flamenco. And flamenco, for those of you who aren't really familiar, it's a dance. But it's something that you can see like throughout Spain, but it really has its roots in Andalusia in the southern part of Spain. So we really wanted to catch a flamenco show there. The thing about flamenco is just like a way for the people to be able to express themselves. So during a time where there was a lot of, oppression, poverty, it was really hard to live where they were living. So it's all about a feeling, right? Of like perseverance and just like going through really hard times, but then getting through it. So they were telling us in the introduction to the show, they were like, flamenco is a dance, but it's really more of a feeling. And I have to say, we felt it. It was
That's
like, I
so
got,
cool.
and we couldn't take video or anything, but I took a picture of them after they were done performing and they were like posing for us and stuff. And they were wearing like the traditional dress for the flamenco. And it was just like, it was one of the coolest experience I think we had in Spain. So highly recommend. I can't speak to where you could like in other regions of Spain watching one. I just know that in Triana, it was really amazing. We really enjoyed it.
Is there like one specific show in the area, or like how did you know which one to book and where to go to see it?
Yeah, so they actually have different theaters. This was called like the Flamenco Theater, and I booked it on TripAdvisor, I believe, or Viator, one of
Yeah.
those. I can't
I
remember.
think Viator is TripAdvisor's like booking platform.
Right,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. So so we just booked it through there. I did look at the reviews for it prior to booking, and my mom had done some research too, obviously.
She'd watched the YouTube
Um,
videos of the show already.
Yeah, so she kind of like sent me the link and I read the reviews and stuff, and that's how I decided to book it. But there are different options, but she knew she wanted to watch it in that neighborhood, wanted to watch it in Seville. So that's like one of the main things we did.
Very cool.
And that
Sounds
was like the
amazing.
first night we were there.
Nice.
We were there for 4 nights, so it was like a lot of time, although it wasn't really too much time. But while we were there, we also visited, we did like back-to-back tours at the Real Alcazar, which is the Alcazar Palace. And then after that, we went to the Cathedral de Seville, so like the Seville Cathedral. They're right next to each other. And like, I forget what the neighborhood's called now. Now it's, I can't remember, but it wasn't too far away. I think, oh, Santa Cruz neighborhood. So we were like in the Arenal Triana neighborhood. And then in the Santa Cruz neighborhood is the palace and the cathedral. And they offered back-to-back tours, which I would not recommend, like a lot.
Yeah.
But again, we did guided tours there. So we started at the palace and we had a guided tour. We had a guide that was taking us through the palace, telling us about the history because it's like very Moorish influences. Because that's the thing about Spain is that there's so many different cultures in Spain that it's kind of really cool to go to the different like regions and see that. So we got to see the Moorish influences at the palace, and they actually shot some Game of Thrones scenes at this palace. So it's kind of cool to like kind of walk around and be like, oh, that looks familiar, you know?
Yeah.
So we had a really good time. And then the thing is that we didn't have that much time to take pictures and like explore on our own. So we really were only able to like use the restroom, maybe grab a snack because I need to eat. Otherwise, I get hangry. And then we ran over to the cathedral and we had the same guide, and she was amazing. And she walked us through the cathedral, which again, I like seeing cathedrals, but it's one of those things where I just kind of like stand there and look around and I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm done.
Yeah, sometimes in
Um,
Europe it feels like you see so many cathedrals and churches that you're a little like you get cathedraled out. You're like the first one or two was great, and now they're all starting to look the same.
yeah, I get cathedral fatigue and I'm like,
Yeah.
I've seen them all already, but having a guide again was super helpful. And what's cool about that cathedral is that they have the remains of Christopher Columbus and they have this like huge tomb there, but they really only have his thumb. And she was like, she was like, I'm not really sure how many, like, how much of his thumb we actually have, but yes,
It's
we
like a
have the
fingernail.
remains. Yeah, we have the remains of Christopher Columbus. Here it is,
Oh
maybe.
my gosh, funny.
So, and then
Hilarious.
we also, there's a tower that you can go up and it's these ramps. So it's not stairs, but they have like many ramps. I think it's like 40 ramps. Somebody don't Google me on that, but
Yeah.
I think it's like 40 ramps and we like made it not even halfway and we looked at each other. I was like, I'm hungry. So we went back to
Were they like short, zigzaggy? Like, did you get dizzy?
No, they weren't zigzaggy. We didn't get dizzy. It was just like they were long and it's because they used to like ride a donkey up there.
Oh, wow. You were
So
like, we
the
need a
donkey
donkey to get up this thing.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's apparently like really great views up at the tower, and I'm kind of sad we missed it, but like, don't
Another
do
time.
tours back to back, people.
Yeah,
If
you were
you
just
do
over it.
eat, bring a snack, like
Yeah.
it was a lot, but
And
it
it's
was
like
really cool
different
to see.
trips for like different things for different trips. Like we were working on our New York City trip and I was like, are we going to take the 160 whatever stairs to see the top of the crown of the Statue of Liberty? And then I'm like, I can already see my 7-year-old melting down and crying in that spiral staircase. And I'm like, no, they can go back when they're older. We can go back at different time. We don't have to take those steps this trip.
Yeah, I made my mom do like 300 steps for the Eiffel Tower because I was like, Mom, who knows? This could be the only time in your whole life you're going up the Eiffel Tower. And she like gave me the death stare as she was going up.
She's like, this is
But
only for you, honey.
yeah, I'm like, it's the Eiffel Tower. But this tower, I was kind of like, you know what? It's okay.
Yeah. And you'd been like touring a lot at that point.
Yes, it was definitely a long day, but another reason why you need a guide.
How was the food in Seville? Was it similar or different than Madrid?
I think it was a little different. I mean, in Spain, there's a lot of ham, which I love ham, but it was a lot of ham. But they also had so many other dishes like octopus, which is pulpo in Spanish. So if you see that on the menu,
I love
and
octopus, actually. If it's done right and if it's grilled nice and charred, it's so delicious.
so delicious. I was always getting octopus. Patatas bravas is another big thing. So, which
Yes,
is like
love that.
basically potatoes with like hot sauce and sour cream and stuff. But like some places it was really good, and some places it was like meh, just like if you're getting fries anywhere else, like sometimes the fries are great and sometimes not so great. But
Right.
those are some things that we saw on the menu a lot. Croquetas, really big on the menu, and I love those. But
That's like a ham and cheese kind of sandwich.
no, they're like fritters and like they'll
Okay.
have different fillings. And what's cool about Spain, like usually here in the US, like we always get like the ham or like chicken ones, but you can get like seafood ones there. Like we liked trying all the different ones. I think I got like, oh no, I'm gonna say the wrong animal. Maybe like bull ones. I don't know. There
Maybe,
was like
maybe
some
April.
some other item, like some other animal with them, and it was like really good. Can't remember what it was, but um, anyways, people are going to be like, you can't eat bull, whatever, something. There's one thing about being in Spain that we really saw in Seville more than we saw in Madrid and Barcelona. And it was really like that time between lunch and dinner where everything is closed.
That's so
Like,
crazy that it like still is like that.
yes. And it was definitely like that in Seville, where all the restaurants close at like 4 or 4:30, and I need to eat all day long. So I had to make accommodations for myself. And we had to adjust. And the restaurants don't open up until 8:30, 9 o'clock
For
at
dinner?
night. Yes.
Wow, that's
And
late.
I know. And I'm already like, I like am re like, let's get ready for bed, but not on vacation, obviously. So there was one restaurant that was close to our hotel that didn't open up until 8:30. It was called La Brunilda. Highly recommend. So we couldn't get reservations. So we were like, you know what? Let's just see if we can get in at 8:30. So we probably got there like 45 minutes before, and there was one person already standing there. As we got closer to 8:30, there was a long line. And I was like, man, this place must be really good. And then they opened up and they're like, yeah, we can get you a table and you get it for like 2 hours. And I was like, 2 hours? Like, when do the other people show?
Yeah. They're like, you're probably starving since it's 8:30, so we're going to give you 2 hours to eat.
But no, there were because like nobody really shows up to eat, I guess, until like 9:30, 10 o'clock, which is
What
crazy
time
to
do they
me.
go to bed over there? I mean, I'm kind of a night owl. I typically go to bed at like 11, between 11 and midnight, but I still want to eat dinner like around
I
6 or
know.
7.
I'm an early dinner person. I'm like an old person that likes the
Yeah.
early bird special. But
So
the
did the
food was
restaurant fill
amazing.
up as you were, did it fill up pretty quickly?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
immediately.
Yeah.
Because there was tons of people. I mean, because there was tons of people already waiting to open up, for them to open up. And then so it filled up and then people were coming in and they were turning them away. They were like, nope, sorry, we have reservations.
Good for you guys
So
getting there
I'm
early.
really glad we got there early.
What was the food like?
The food was great. I mean, we had octopus. We also had the patatas bravas. Like the food, like we saw a lot of the same food items on the menu in Seville, but that restaurant probably had the best. So I would highly recommend if you're in Seville to go to La Brunilda. But also one thing that's really big in I think in Europe in general, but in Spain are the mercados, which are like the markets. So there were several food markets and food halls. Those kind of close too, but sometimes they're open. And we during the day and sometimes in the evening we would go there and like get a snack. They had all different foods. You could get pizza, you could get little sandwiches. I forget what they call the sandwiches, like the little ones. I think they're called like pintos or something. I think that's what they're called. They're different little sandwiches, or like we would get dessert there. But food halls are really big. And I think if you're like more on a budget, like I think that those are really good to supplement and then do like a nice dinner maybe like once or twice while you're there and then supplement with the food halls and stuff because you can get some really good stuff. I mean, we got like some freshly cut ham a few times. And I love ham, but it was maybe got a little hammed out, but it was worth
Yeah.
it for sure.
Yum. Those sound great, those food markets.
Yeah. Seville, we also did a hop on, hop off. So we did get to see a lot. So in Seville, we didn't do any public transportation. We didn't really have to because we were able to walk, but we did do the hop on, hop off. And some of the highlights of that was like the Golden Tower. They do have a bunch of plazas, and there's a Plaza Espana there where they shot like Star Wars Episode 1 and like stuff like that. Like, so really cool. And we actually did like for my mom. We're so like campy and lame, but like so we brought a sash that said like I'm retired and she had like a crown and
I
I
love it.
we did like a photo shoot in the Plaza España in Seville because like we're also Star Wars geeks and nerds.
Oh my
And
gosh, I love
so
it.
yeah, so we took a bunch of pictures of her there and people
So
were saying
fun.
congratulations. There's people taking pictures for their weddings or like they're like quinceañeras or something. So like we weren't the only ones.
Yeah. No, I love it. Might
But
as well
beautiful.
celebrate.
Yeah, exactly. And then another big thing too in Spain, obviously, is the bullfighting and stuff. So, which I don't think that they allow that anymore. I don't remember, but there's a historic bull ring that was like 5 minutes from our hotel in Seville. So highly recommend that. Didn't do a guided tour there. I don't think they offer those, but they do have an audio tour. And they don't really explain the audio tour very well on their website, so you don't realize that you need to have like your own headphones and stuff. So a lot of people were walking around with their speakerphone, which it didn't bother people because we understood. But if I knew that, I probably would have brought headphones for
Yeah,
us. Because when you do the guided tours, they always give you, which I didn't realize this. This is the first time that they had done this, but all the guided tours we did in Spain, they give you your individual headset and they have a microphone. So when they're walking through the museum or walking through whatever, they're talking into the microphone and you can hear it in
oh,
your
so they're not
ears.
like talking too loud and disturbing other
No,
people. They're
it's
kind of talking
great.
quietly and you can hear it. Got it.
Yes. And my mom's hard of hearing, so it was so great for her because she actually could hear everything that they
Got
were
it.
saying. It was awesome. But for that one, it was just like on your phone. So just a little tip. Seville was definitely a more like laid back vibe for sure. We really enjoy just kind of walking through like over the bridge, down the rivers, and through the different neighborhoods and stuff. Definitely a more laid back vibe than Madrid. It was really cool.
So then you moved on to Barcelona. So how did you get from Seville to Barcelona?
Like I was saying before, Madrid's kind of in the middle, Seville's in the south, and then you have Barcelona, which is all the way up north, on the coast, like closer to France. So taking a train would have been like 10 hours. So we decided to fly.
Nice.
Which it was only like an hour flight. We ended up flying on the budget airline in Spain, which is a partner of Iberia. It's called Vueling, Vueling. It's pronounced Vueling. And it was really easy to get to the airport. Fortunately, with one of my credit cards, I get airport lounge access even if I'm on a budget airline. So we got into a lounge, which was nice. It was
Amazing.
right next to our gate. So we got some breakfast because it was kind of an early morning flight. And of course, they had Russian salad in the fridge. And
You're like, I can't escape
I
this.
was like, let me try this one. I'm like, nope, still gross. Um, and then yeah, it was a budget airline, but I would probably compare it to probably Breeze Airways. I don't know if you've flown Breeze. They're like more of like a regional airport here, like airline, like they fly to the regional
Yeah,
airports.
I haven't, but I have flown on a lot of those European, like Ryanair and all those. And they're
I think
great
it's
because they're just
nicer.
like get on, get off. It's like
Right.
cheap when you're booking it. You're like, is this legit? But
I know. Ryanair is like super cheap. I haven't flown that one, but I do think that Vueling's just like a tad higher standard wise. So, we just did that. I'm sure I know that the Ryanair also flew around in Spain, but Vueling was great. I mean, I think we paid like $150 per person, which we definitely could have spent less probably, but we wanted to be able to have a carry-on and a personal item. We also wanted to check our bags because, we were flying business class and you don't have to worry about paying for checked bags, but we had a lot of souvenirs and stuff. And I was like, you know
right,
what? We'll just pay a little bit extra to be able to check our bags on a super short flight.
right.
So yeah, we probably paid a little bit more than what you would normally pay, but 150 bucks a person was fine.
Yeah. So in Barcelona, where did you stay?
In Barcelona, we stayed at a hotel called the HCC Mont Blanc, and it was again in a really great location. It was 139 euros, I think, a night or whatever, but still really nice.
Great.
The room was big. Had nothing bad to say about it. The staff was amazing. I mean, it wasn't like super fancy, but it was definitely level up or five from the first hotel we ever stayed at.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
it was nice.
When I went to Barcelona for the first time, I was in college and I was just like this slightly naive college kid who didn't do any research and we just kind of showed up. And I remember being surprised by all the palm trees and how tropical it felt. And so, what were the vibes for you in Barcelona?
Yeah, the vibes in Barcelona, I would say, is like a really cool mix of like medieval, Gothic, but also like those Mediterranean beachy vibes.
Yeah,
And I have to say that for me, I found Barcelona the most culturally interesting because so there's different regions in Spain, right? I already talked about Andalusia, but then in where Barcelona is, that's in Catalonia. And so they speak Catalan, which is a lot more complicated than Spanish. From what I learned, and everything is in Catalan. So like you'll see Catalan and then maybe Spanish, and then not maybe, but it will definitely be Catalan, Spanish, and then maybe English. So like most of the people there, they're speaking Catalan. So sometimes people are like, wait, is that Spanish? Some words are similar, but it is a very different, like more, it kind of reminds me more of like Latin, but they speak it, because there's a
Hmm.
lot of Roman influence there as well. And I mean, you see Roman ruins just like in the middle of the city, which is really cool. And we stayed near the Gothic quarter. So it was interesting to like be because Barcelona is a little bit more cosmopolitan, I would say, than well, not a little bit, like a lot more cosmopolitan than Seville, and then like, but Madrid's more cosmopolitan. So it's like in the middle. So we were staying in kind of like that area, and then right next door is like a medieval Gothic quarter. And then 5 minutes away is the beach.
Yeah, it's
So
so
it's very
cool.
cool and like interesting.
I remember loving it. Did you guys do a hop on, hop off tour here as well?
We did. Are you surprised?
I love it.
We did, but I mean, like that wasn't even like the hop on hop off tours on this trip were not like the highlights. I would
Yeah.
say it was more those tours that we did, but it
When
was
it probably gives
helpful.
you like a lay of the land, you can kind of like get your bearings and then figure out
Exactly.
what you want to like spend more time doing.
Which is what I love about it because it does give you like you kind of get your bearings, like you said, you get to know the city a little bit more, and you do see everything. Like you don't even have to get off. Sometimes, like especially my husband and I, we love to just get on and just ride it,
Yeah.
maybe not get off the first time and just ride the full loop. But what was really funny with Barcelona, though, is that like the first day we got there, we went to the hotel, put our stuff down, then we walked over to the Gothic Quarter. My mom was super excited about that. And so we're walking down these like really narrow streets. And it looks like it reminds me of Nocturne Alley and out of Harry Potter. I don't know if you've ever been to the Universal Diagon
Yeah.
Alley.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, so it kind of reminded me of Nocturne Alley, just not so dark. But so we're walking down, and all of a sudden, I see this like life-size statue of like this farmer-looking guy just like squatting, and there's a big pile of poop, like
What?
yeah. And I was like, Mom, what is this? And she goes, Oh my gosh, yes, I know about the store, the pooper. And I'm like, the pooper? What are you
What?
yeah, so oh, I forgot to grab one of the statues. I'll bring one so I can show you. So
Okay.
we get there, we're in front of the store, and I'm like, the pooper, what are you talking about? And it's called Caganer, which is Catalan for the pooper. And basically, back in the 18th century, there was a farmer that came to his land and he pooped on it, fertilized it, and it made the land plentiful and the harvest was bountiful.
Oh my
So
gosh.
now it's a symbol of good luck. And the store is literally just statues of poopers, like pooper statues. And it's not just this farmer guy either. It's like I got my husband a Deadpool one. And like they're all like some of them are all different sizes. And there was like Star Wars, like any character you can think of, they have a statue of it squatting and pooping. They even have a bowl at the register of just the poops.
Mm-mm.
Just buy the poops.
I know that cow poop is really good for fertilization and it's part of our farming process, but surely they don't still think that human poop is safe to be fertilizing crops with.
Yeah, I don't know about that part. I just know that they still really love this pooper statue.
That
And
is
it's not even just in
hilarious.
the store. Like we found like a Christmas ornament because we have like a travel tree at home where we like to put all our ornaments from where we
That's
visit.
a cute
And so
idea. I like that
yeah,
idea.
so we bought a pooper for the tree.
Oh my
So
gosh,
now
that
it's
is
on the tree.
hilarious. I have never heard of that, and I love that your mom was like, "Oh yeah, duh."
Yeah, she
There
was
he
like, "Oh my
is.
God, yes, I do know about the store. Let's go in." And I'm like, "What is happening here?" But like the statue is no joke, like life size, and he's just
Wow.
squatting and pooping.
What a story. I'm gonna have to do some research on that after this.
Yeah, I actually there's a reel on Instagram, like on my page that you can find.
Oh, perfect. I'm gonna go watch
Yeah, and
that.
you'll see the statue and like hear the story. It's really funny. So that was just like my introduction into Barcelona was just like poop sketch.
I feel like I missed that store when I was there in my 20s.
As far as like other activities that we did in Barcelona, I mean, like I said, there's the beach. So there's like a few minutes away, we actually hopped on the bus because in Barcelona they also have a really great metro system that includes the bus. We did a 48-hour metro ticket because we were doing like we knew that there were things that we needed the metro for, but so we did the metro and then the last 2 days we were there, we did the hop on, hop off. So we had like our transportation covered. So we took the bus down to the Barceloneta beach, which has like a huge boardwalk. They have this beautiful hotel, W Hotel, like on the beach that you can see, which is really cool. And they have a bunch of restaurants and stuff. But what was the highlight of the trip for me as well, besides the pooper, was the Sagrada Familia Basilica, which was designed and built by Anthony Gaudi, who has huge influences and deep roots in Barcelona. You probably remember him
I
from when you.
remember this. I remember going here. It was like incredible.
Yeah. So they've been building this basilica for 100 years, and they won't be done building it for another 100 years. And that's because it's completely funded on donations. Donations from people like us, tourists that are going there and paying to see it, just people deciding to give money. Like it's completely funded by that. So it's going to be built for a long time, but it's right now still like so beautiful. It's like a stunning, iconic structure in Barcelona. And if you're not familiar with Anthony Gaudi, which I was not at all, but his style is really like avant-garde and like he has a lot of movement in his architecture. In the basilica outside, there's a bunch of religious symbolism, like every single sculpture or like piece of art on the basilica means something. So, of course, we did a guided tour again. And so they were able to explain all of the symbolism to us. We walked inside, we looked up at all of the stained glass, and they have this they call it golden hour, which you guys know what golden hour is, right? But in the inside the basilica, there's a golden hour where the sun shines through the stained glass, and it just has this like really cool orange hue. And so it's just like really amazing. It was really cool to see. And they do have services, I think, on Sundays. So it's not just something that people just come and tour. Like they actually do have services. But that was like one of the really cool things that we got to see and hear about. And it's just like a very iconic structure in Barcelona, a must do. And I would highly recommend getting a guided tour
Yeah, it's
for that as
extremely
well.
elaborate. And I actually
Yes.
just looked up for fun. I was looking at the pictures again because I kind of, forgot exactly what it looked like, but I remember how elaborate it was. And I Googled, does Gaudi come from Gaudi? Because the word Gaudi kind of means like showy and elaborate. And
Oh,
it doesn't. It's a myth. A lot of people think it does because the
mm.
style is, you could almost say it's a little gaudy. But it's a myth
Yeah.
that that's connected, that's not connected. But I do remember it being absolutely incredible. And then, isn't there also, separate from the Basilica, a Gaudi house that's really wild and interesting? Did you see that
Yes,
as well?
so
Yeah.
there's a few actually.
Yeah.
So the Sagrada Familia is the basilica, right? But he also did design houses within Barcelona for families, and one of them is the Casa Baltó, and that's probably the one you're talking about. There's another
With
one.
like
There's
all the
Casa
rounded,
Emilia.
like on the outside
It kind
kind
of
of.
reminds you of like the outside of a dragon of with like the scales and stuff.
Yes.
And then so we did a tour and inside it kind of I mean, obviously I've never seen the inside of a dragon, but that's what I would imagine it to look like for real. Like it's just so cool how he uses the the different light, the natural light against structures that he built, and just like looks like when you're in there, it looks like you really are in a dragon. It's just like really, really cool. So we were able to tour that. They have like a little cafe at the top, like it's like a rooftop cafe. So we kind of had a snack there because I get peckish and kind of like hanging out. But I would highly recommend doing the Basilica, but then also touring at least one of his houses that he built there. It's not his house, he built it for families or whatever.
Yeah,
But also throughout Barcelona, you will see some of his like influences and pieces. Like if you like a light post, it looks kind of like something out of like a Tim Burton movie or something. It like looks kind of haunted, but like not really. Like he designed those, like so
super
you
cool.
kind of get glimpses of it, even if you're just walking up and down Barcelona. You really can't escape, I feel like, his architectural style in Barcelona.
Yeah, I remember loving it and touring all those places and seeing the influence all over. So that's awesome.
We also toured the Palau de Música, which is just like it's like basically like a musical palace where they do have performances there, but it's very historical, not Gaudi designed or inspired. It's just like super ornate and just beautiful. So we did a guided tour, which they offer there. So you can book it directly through the music hall, but it was originally built for the people. There was a community in Barcelona, like a choir with people from the community, and they built it for that. So that's kind of cool. And while we were there and touring it, we were able to see them rehearsing for like a poetry festival or something. So we got to listen to that. So just Barcelona in general is just like a really cool cultural experience. There's seriously so much there. I would totally go back. I mean, there's museums, there's cathedrals, just like a lot to do. And just like the fact that we got to see Roman ruins just like in the middle of like a city is just like super amazing.
Yeah, awesome. Were there any memorable restaurants or food? I know that you said a lot of the food you had similar things, but did anything stand out in Barcelona?
In Barcelona, that was the first time I actually saw this is like super simple, but like they like had a lot of bread that was just like tomato, like mashed tomatoes with olive oil, which sounds super simple and basic,
Sounds
but
delicious to me, though.
it
I am
was
like a tomato
delicious.
lover.
Yeah, it was really good. So we actually really just ate at a lot of restaurants, just kind of like on the streets and stuff.
Kind of like on your way from
Um,
one thing to the next.
yeah, there was one particular place, a hotel that we went to. It was called Ola Barcelona, not like Hola, Ola, but OHLA. And they have a rooftop bar which has like a really cool view of Barcelona, and they have a restaurant there. There's also like Via Latina is like a streetway in Barcelona, and they have like a restaurant there. It's like La Cuina Latina, which is like the Latina kitchen, I think, in Catalan. And we actually had, paella is big in Spain, right? And they had all different types of paella, and my mom ordered one with noodles instead of rice, and it was really
Interesting.
good. And
Nice.
they were like crunchy noodles.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But yeah, the food is really good.
I think that's one of the best things about Europe is that you can just be walking along and when it time for a meal, you can pop into like any cafe or any restaurant that happens to be there and you end up getting this like incredible delicious food. You don't have to like go to the number one restaurant necessarily. Like there's so many options all over the place.
Right, exactly.
So then you made your way back to Madrid.
Yeah, so since Madrid's in the middle and we were kind of like up north and stuff, it was still like an under 3 hour train ride. So we decided to do the train. And so we took a morning train back to Madrid. We got to Madrid, and this time we were staying at like this was like the grand finale of our trip. Like I didn't plan it this way. We started really low with the first hotel, and then we gradually got higher and higher, and then
I was
like grand.
wondering if you booked the second Madrid hotel because the first one was so bad or if it was always the plan.
No, it was always the plan, but
Okay.
I think I think the reason why I booked the Hyatt Centric Madrid on Gran Via. Really great location, super busy though, lots of shopping, lots of restaurants. Um, I wanted to stay somewhere nice our last 2 nights so that we could kind of like unwind and relax.
I love
But
that. I just booked that for um Grand Canyon Phoenix. It's like go, 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 lots of Holiday Inns and stuff because like you can't really stay super nice places around the Grand Canyon.
Mhm.
And then at the end, we're staying at a Grand Hyatt in Scottsdale for 2 nights because I'm like, then we're gonna lay by the pool and relax after our go, go, go trip. So I'm
Right.
on the same page as you.
Yeah, it was the best thing I could have done. And this was like 5-star Hyatt centric. It was beautiful. The room was gorgeous, brand new, super modern. The bathroom, I walked in and I was like, "Oh my God, this bathroom. I just want to lay here and just like live
Amazing.
here." It was amazing. And then we had like an amenity menu. You know the hotel's fancy when they give you an amenity list and then like a pillow menu where you can
Oh,
get
the
like
pillow menu.
pillow
I
menu.
love it.
I love a pillow menu. You know the hotel is fancy. And
Yes.
then they had a rooftop bar which has an amazing view of Madrid. So we actually spent a lot of time up there. We were just like relaxing, having a drink, having some food. But we were also staying like in the thick of it, like where everything is. So we did walk down and did some shopping. My mom did some shopping at a shoe store, a Spanish shoe store. It's called Camper. And we actually did ask about the VAT refund there.
And did it
And
work?
yes, we got our receipts and we had the app and it was super easy for us to be able to get that. So, because she did spend some money.
Good job,
Um,
Mama. She's celebrating
yeah,
her retirement. She's worked
right,
hard.
exactly. Yeah, so we did a lot of walking around, looking at the shops. That's where we were able to find the Puerto Rico restaurant that doesn't have Puerto Rican food. That
It's kind
was
of fun though,
still.
because you guys already had been there and you'd already done your touristy stuff. And now you're
Mhm.
back. You've spent all this time in Spain. So it's time to just like relax, hit up some things you didn't do some shopping, do some eating, do some drinking. Like it sounds like the perfect way to end the trip.
Yeah, and I love churros. So like there were places around like each place we went to, we tried some churros, but there's a lot of great places in Madrid. There is one place, I think it was near Puerta de Sol, and it's called like Sanguines. So it's like Sangines. And when we walked over there, there was a huge line at like the main place, but it's a very popular churro place. So they had like the main restaurant, and then a little further down, they had like an ice cream shop. And so we just walked down there because I was like, I'm not standing in this line. And we walked down there, there was nobody in there, and they had the same stuff. So
Amazing.
we ordered churros and like hot chocolate there
That's a
and
great
sat
tip.
there and enjoyed it. We had a lot of churros, and that was the best one, guys.
Nice.
Definitely the best one. We went to also Valor. You probably have seen the small little wrapped chocolates. You might have seen it says Valor. They gave us that on the our flight on Iberia. They gave us some Valor chocolates. But anyway, so they actually have it kind of looks like a diner restaurant, but you can get like a bunch of desserts, but also like breakfast food. It was really interesting. They had churros there and hot chocolate, and the churros weren't as good. The hot chocolate was great. Like all
Yeah.
their chocolate stuff was good, but the churros themselves weren't as good. But that's also a good place people like to go to for desserts and stuff. And the velour chocolate, you definitely have heard of that before, and they
Yeah.
actually have the shop there, so that was cool.
Everything about this trip sounds so amazing and so special. I love that you gave this gift to your mom. Like, what a memorable experience for the two of you. So it's sad when trips have to come to an end, but how was the travel home? Did everything go easy peasy back on business class on Iberia?
Yeah, for the most part, it was easy peasy. We took a cab back to the airport, the Madrid airport, and since we were flying business class, they have what's called the fast track. So we were able to go through and fast track security. But before that, we did drop off our bags to be checked, and then well, first I scanned they have like these kiosks for you to scan for your VAT refund because if it's like electronics, like laptops or something, you probably have to go to customs. But since my mom had just bought clothes, you scan it, they give you a green check mark, and then you get your money. So we did that first. Then we dropped off our bags to be checked. Then we were able to go through the fast track, which we felt like celebrities. There was like nobody
Fast
there.
track was because you were business class or
It was
another
because we
reason?
were business class.
Okay,
It's not
cool.
like TSA pre-check or anything,
Okay.
because that doesn't really work when you're abroad. It really only works when you're like leaving the US. And then if you have global entry, then you can use that when you're coming back into the US, which we do have. What we like to do is we like to have our our carry-on luggage. We like to bring that on our trips, and then we'll bring like foldable bags for like our souvenirs and stuff. So we checked our bags and then we had like our foldable bags with like most of our souvenirs. We went through the fast track. Flying back, we had to go to this satellite terminal. So I felt like it took us like 30 minutes to get from the fast track security onto another shuttle into like another
It
world
was like
of the
fast track,
airport.
but you're still taking
Yeah, I
you
was
30 to
like,
45
where are we
minutes.
going? I thought we were already at the airport. But anyway, so we go to the satellite terminal, and since we were in business class, they had a Iberia business class lounge. And because we are flying out of Madrid too, like it depends on the airport, but Madrid is kind of like their hub, right? So they
Yeah.
have like a really gorgeous business class lounge there. And they have a ton of food, like so much food, and they have like sleeping rooms, showers, TVs, snacks, all the drinks you could think of or whatever. So we got I like to get the airport super early, and the fact that we could just kind of sit and relax in the lounge while we were waiting was great. Thank God, because when we got to our gate, they were like, okay, so we're gonna board everybody, and but business class boards first. So we went through first, but then we had to walk down the ramp downstairs, and then they put us on a shuttle to take us to the plane.
This is
But
in the
then
boarding process.
this is the boarding process
Wow.
to the plane, and then we couldn't get off the shuttle. And I'm very sensitive to fumes. So like the fumes from all the planes and stuff was giving me a headache. Plus we had to stand for it was like 30 minutes. They're like, "Oh, the crew's not here yet, so you can't board the plane." I'm like, "Then why did we do all this? Why didn't we
Yeah.
just
I could have
wait?"
been in the lounge.
Right, exactly. And then so finally the crew gets there, but then you got to wait for them to get the plane ready. So we're still standing there. All the other shuttles are coming.
Are
So
you
by the
standing
time
on like the tarmac, like
we're
where the
standing in the
planes?
shuttle. There's nowhere to sit in the shuttle
You're
on the
standing
tarmac.
in a shuttle. Okay.
The fumes, we're like dying. And then finally we're able to board the plane. But like it doesn't matter that we're business class because like everybody's there. And so it's like a mass, like tons of
Like herd
people
of
trying to
people
get on
just
the plane.
trying to cram onto this plane.
Yeah, and we're carrying our bags, get up the stairs, fight people off, you know. But anyways, we get on the plane. I finally get into my business class seat, and I'm like, okay. They give me some Prosecco, and I'm like, you know what? I forgive.
Yeah.
It's
This is
fine.
why I do points and miles. I'm
This is
coming
why I
back
fly
to
business
life in my
class.
business class seat.
It is okay. I'm looking out the window. People are still trying to board the plane, and I'm sitting there with my Prosecco, and they're like apologizing, like, do you want this? Do you want that? And I'm like, yes,
Yeah, I
please give
want
me
it
my
all.
hot
I want it
towel.
all.
Give me.
Yeah.
I will take another Prosecco. Thank you very much. So I forgave them, but that was still pretty rough. I was like, this is totally unnecessary. But once we got on the plane, everything was smooth. We got back to Miami, went through global entry, which was amazing.
I've got to get that. I don't have that yet, but I swear next time I leave the country, I'm getting that before I come back into the country.
Yes, yeah. And you know what? You need to start the application process because I remember when we were doing it, it was kind of hard to get a appointment. And then depending on like sometimes if you've traveled to a certain place within a short amount of time, it might take a while for them to conditionally approve your application. So if you have a trip,
Maybe just go ahead and start the process now,
I
get it
would
done.
start the
I think I
process
have a
now.
credit card too that covers the fee. I think my
Yeah, there's
Southwest Business Performance card might, or at least have some sort of like kickback on it.
Yeah. A lot of credit cards do like reimburse you like once every like 4 or 5 years, and they
Yeah,
just like
I need
upped
to
it
look into
because the
that.
price just increased. And then like if you have it, then your kids can get it too. Did you
Right.
know that?
Until they turn 13, because I have a
Mhm.
12-year-old and we're starting to run into, they're always looking at her at the airport going, how old is she? And I'm like 12, because she
Mhm.
really is. But once they turn 13, they have to have their own TSA, their own everything.
Mhm.
So I'm starting to need to research her getting that stuff too now, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, if you have a credit card or you're thinking about getting a credit card, like kind of like plan in advance, like the Capital One Venture X has the reimbursement. I think the Venture does too. So plan ahead for getting your global entry because it also includes TSA PreCheck, which is going to be great for your domestic travel. And like,
Yes.
why get TSA? Like my dad did this. He got TSA PreCheck, and then he was like, "Oh wait, there's a global entry," and then paid for that. Like, why? Like,
Mm,
get global entry. It includes TSA PreCheck.
perfect.
Work smarter, not harder, people.
Yes. Earn and burn, work smarter, not harder. Genni, I end every show with if someone out there is considering this trip, what is it about Spain that would make you say, just book it?
There's so much to love about Spain. I mean, it's a melting pot of different cultures, beautiful cities, rich history, stunning architecture, amazing food. You just got to book it. The sooner you start, the sooner you can see everything in Spain because I feel like we just scratched the surface. We haven't even seen everything that Spain has to offer. So just book it.
I love it. What a wealth of knowledge you have been. Thank you so much. Tell everyone where they can find you online.
Yeah, so you can find me at Traveling Franklins. I have a blog, so travelingfranklins.com, at Traveling Franklins on Instagram. Would love to have you in our Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group community. We have a really great community there, all about taking a laid back approach to points and miles, but also we talk about different strategies that don't include points and miles to kind of help you travel more for less money. I have Facebook Lives in there. Would love to have you, Kelsey, on
Yes,
there.
I'll be
Um,
joining.
yeah, and I host webinars. We just do a lot of fun stuff. So I would love to have you join that community. And thank you, Kelsey, so much for having me. This was so much fun. And now I want to plan another trip to Spain, just talking about the past trip that we just did.
Yes, thank you so much for being here, Genni. And like I said, we'll probably be having you back because I need to hear all about the Christmas markets. So
Oh, yeah. Yes, that was so much fun.
that wraps up another episode of Trip Tales. If you have a trip you'd like to share about on the podcast, email me at triptalespodcast@gmail.com and I'll add you to the schedule. Also, be sure to follow the show so that you don't miss any upcoming vacation destinations. And if you have an extra minute in your day, please leave a review for the podcast. It helps more than you could imagine. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode of Trip Tales.